is about outcomes. Outcomes leading into why do we have those outcomes? And then what are the actions to take inside of the RPM, rapid planning method? And Jay Sips, I just want to check in with you. Like, how are you? How are your outcomes? What's going on with you this morning?
Hey, Rush, I appreciate that. And I'm really excited that we're talking about RPMs and grateful that you were there this past weekend serving that community, learning and bringing it back here. I'm very present to that. We had Patty had some of her friends and folks sending us pictures from that weekend. And Patty's like, what's this? I'm like, oh, it's a rapid planning method. And I've heard of it, looked into it, but I have not adopted it or done any more. So the fact that we're talking about that is a big blessing. And to answer your question, I am doing amazing. Had a conversation yesterday, speaking of planning and making things happen. Um, had a conversation to really see where there was a co-creation opportunity where everyone thrives, and a change of where I initially was going with the kids' education piece of what I'm bringing to the world. But it went really, really well. So I'm glad you asked.
Amazing. Well, good to hear that. And yeah, the weekend was powerful. And one of the things I realized in terms of the rapid planning method, just to give it some flavor, is I wanted to find a way, an action plan to have it come to life, but also like, why would I want to do that? So I'll just share a screen share. So hopefully everyone can see the screen share. If you can't, that you can like create categories for yourself. And so one of them I called RPM Unleashed, but then it says, what's your ultimate vision? And you can actually use AI to create it to become a master of the RPM system, leveraging its power to exponentially multiply my productivity, focus, results, all in service of God's greater plan. And Tony Robbins AI created all of this for me based on the information I had provided him, which is amazing. And then it says, well, what's your role in that? RPM virtuoso and productivity steward, but then the ultimate purpose. And I think this is one of the takeaways for me from the weekend was, are the things you're up to connected to why you want to do it? Like that's purpose. Purpose is your why. Like, hey, I'm doing all this stuff, but are you connected to the why of why you're doing that? And so that's where I thought we'd dial in today, Jay Sips. I was thinking of an example from my own life, the Ironman last year. And I was like, oh,
I knew
and
you were thinking about that. That's why I knew you were saying
well, it
that.
like comes because it was like so palpable in terms of like this. And for everyone who doesn't know, I did an Ironman last year. Jay Sips was the inspiration for me signing up for it because I had heard about him being called Ironman in another community we were a part of. And I was like, what is that? Like, I didn't even know what an Ironman was to the extent of what it entailed to be an Ironman. And so I was like, oh, that's cool because I love competitiveness. I love athletics. I love physicality and like growing and learning and trying to do something that's a little bit crazy. And Jay Sips told me about it. And so I said, oh, could I do that? That was my first question. But then the next question I asked and I realized organically was, well, why would I want to do that? Like, hey, that's cool, but why? And I asked Brent and I asked Jay Sips why I might want to do it. And it was one, it would be pretty badass, but two, who I would become in the process and what I would learn along the way was like what it feels like to cross that finish line after all the hard work, after all the dedication, after all the learning, like who you get to become as a result of that was what was inside of me. Jay Sips, can I ask you that question kind of on the fly here? Like, why Iron Man for you? Maybe you're dialing back a little bit, but like, what was it that like had you fueled in those moments where you might say, I don't want to do this anymore?
I love. I'll answer both of those because one is not related to the other necessarily. One is because I did a half Ironman on Disney property, and it was hotter than the sun, and it was a pretty awful experience. That's 70.3 mile race. It took me like 7 hours. That was my first one. And my buddy from Tampa, after I did it, said, "Okay, well, a real man would do an Ironman." And I said, "F you." Okay. And we signed up a month later to do Florida in 2009. So it was basically just taking it to the next level. Like I thought that was the limit, and he showed me that was not the limit. And I know there's another beyond that limit. I just have not dared doubt to walk that path yet.
So to encapsulate that, manhood was questioned, and you said, "Let me prove myself."
Yes, and now I've got my nephew and my relatives here. Otherwise, I would, drop an F-bomb on the morning rush, but I'm going to keep it PG today. So yes, I said, F you, Tim. F you, Timmy, let's go. And then he was trying to get out of it. And I said, no, get on your effing computer. We're signing up for this thing. And we thought we were so cool. We had faux hawks going into the race. I was probably 5 to 7 pounds heavier than I am today, even though I'm not even racing anymore. And we thought we were pretty badass. And then I got passed by a woman. They used to put your age on your calf. And so a mile like 100 of 112, I thought I was crushing it. I was so happy. I still was super happy, had a great day. But I had this woman that was like 68 years old, not in the best shape, just go screaming by me. And I was like, and I was 34. And I was like, oh, okay. There's always another level, people. There's always another level.
I wanna point to something too. We're joking, right? Like, hey, challenging manhood, F you, let's go. But I think it's also like an inner desire inside of us to like be who we can be. Like we know what we're capable of, and oftentimes we'll diminish sometimes who we are. And then there's like this light, and it's like, I want to go do that. Maybe to prove to myself, maybe to prove to my others, but really to like be the person we were designed to be and demonstrate what we're capable of, and then go do other extraordinary things as well, so that others could be inspired. And Jay Sips inspired me because I heard his story. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Let me try that out and see what I find. And I found a new level of who D Rush is.
And here's a little bit more depth. I mean, we're having fun, we're bringing some fun energy into why I did it. And that was a huge part of it. But if you go, why did I go and sacrifice and do all the training and do the things, learn all the lessons? I mean, one thing with doing an Ironman, like anything, like building a business, you guys might hear the story. If you heard the story before, you're like, not again, not Ironman. But understand that it's a 2.4 mile swim. David Rush could not swim. That man could not swim a year ago, like more than 50 yards in the pool. Okay. It's a 112-mile bike ride, followed by a marathon.
I sat in a pool with Jay Sips on my first like training swim with him, and I almost cried. We sat there for 2 hours, and I almost quit the Ironman in that moment because I was like, I can't swim. Go ahead, Jay Sips.
Yeah, and it was a disruption, right? Like that was David being really courageous, and doing something, like understanding, because he thought he was training. I'm like, no, you're exercising, and that's why I invited him to come with me. And we spent 2 hours in the pool. And he went back home and he found a coach. He found someone he was comfortable with, someone that had been there, done it before, that was a gold medalist in what he wanted to accomplish. And there's so many different levels. But for me, it was a doctor. I was always athletic growing up, played 3 sports a year from second grade all the way through high school, through senior year. And I had a surgeon after I had back surgery tell me, like, hey, you're done. You're done running. You're done lifting. You have a back of a 60-year-old. Like in that moment, I decided that is not true. That is not my sentence. I will see what this body is capable of for the rest of my life. I will keep pushing myself to see what's possible, to see what I have inside. And that's why I did Ironman as much as I did. I mean, I did it for 7 years in a row, training 10 months a year, 20 to 24 hours a week.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yep. And now that was in force. There's a ton of force there. I know we're going to breakout, but there's a ton of force driving that decision. There was also a higher power, but force as well. Now, when I come back and race again, it'll be from power. It'll be from love. It'll be based in something different than, hey, I just got to go faster and faster and get better and better and turn the dial and do the things and apply all of those lessons. All of those lessons.
That's actually a great, let's turn that lever just a little bit more, and then we'll go into the breakout rooms. But what's the shift there, Jay Sips? So that connects to the why. It's like, hey, I'm going to do this thing, but the why has shifted for you. And I think that why is probably a little more maybe healthy, maybe more empowering, but like, why did that why shift?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And both will give you a result. Okay, both will give you a result. You can become a multimillionaire driving it from force. You can do it from going from power. The distinction is force was every race. Patty would say to me, you've sacrificed 10 months of this, go faster. You have to do better. This is the last time that you will race with one son. everything always had an outcome tied to it that meant that I was proving something to myself and making it worth everyone around. Like I was proving by working harder, going faster, sacrificing, and just going into a lot of depth. It was coming from a place of stress, of worry, of pushing. It was pushing, versus now I just enjoy it. Now I will stop and give my kid a high five or a hug when I'm racing. Back then, I would just run right by him. I'd give him a high five and be like, I'm going. Like I got to go catch that person in front of me. And so it's a shift on giving acceptance to yourself and doing it because you know there's not an end game. It's not a finite game. It used to feel finite. It used to feel like I have to go faster so I can qualify for Kona because that was the goal. Now it's I have permission
But that
to
pool is
enjoy what I
open.
love and I'll keep going through it.